The assassination attempt on Donald Trump brought Thomas Matthew Crooks, a loner, to the center of public consciousness very quickly. Nonetheless, very few people are familiar with him, particularly with regard to what happened with his dead body. After all, you're going to learn the truth about who he actually was and where his body is located now. What happened to the dead body of Trump's shooter? Thomas Matthew Crooks has had his official cause of death and method of death disclosed. According to the Butler County Coroner's Office, Crooks passed away as a result of a gunshot wound to the head, which was relayed to Fox News Digital on Saturday. According to the Butler County Coroner's Office, a post-mortem examination was carried out in the adjacent county of Allegheny, which is where Crooks resided in Bethel Park. According to the results of the test, what happened to Crooks's body is not apparent. Also, it has been impossible for Fox News Digital to get in touch with his family for a remark. Although authorities have not yet discovered his motivation, a picture of the shooter shocked the place where he lived and the people who knew him. Former classmates who have had the opportunity to speak out after the shooting death on July 13th by members of the Secret Service have described him as a reserved and solitary individual. Juliana Grooms, who graduated 1 year after Crooks, said in an interview with the Wall Street Journal that people would say he was the student who would shoot up the school, that he was bullied, and that he was an easy target. However, a fellow student who was on the school bus with Crooks and whose sister was close with the shooter told Fox News Digital that he had been mischaracterized by classmates who were making up the most random information. According to the statement made by the former Bethel Park High School student who graduated 1 year after Crooks, he didn't talk a lot, but when he was talked to, he would make good conversation. Also, according to another fellow student, he had friends. He had friends on the bus, in class. He added, not a lot of people knew him, but the ones that did never had a negative experience with him. However, as a consequence of all of these statements made by his former classmates, the conspiracy hypothesis grew more credible, and the following is the reason why it is believed that he was Jewish. After the terrorist attacks that occurred on October 7, 2023 in Israel, there was a significant rise in the number of anti-Semitic events that occurred all across the world. Furthermore, in the aftermath of the assaults and the ensuing conflict between Israel and Hamas, there was an increase in the number of online abuse and conspiracy theories, in addition to horrifying acts of violence that occurred in real life. As a result of the failed attempt to kill former President Donald Trump the previous week, anti-Semitic false news has brought its ugly head back into the spotlight. Online conspiracy theorists have made the unfounded assertion that the would-be assassin was Jewish or related to Israel after the incident. There has been a surge in anti-Semitic content following the assassination attempt. Narratives have emerged spreading disinformation, such as claims that shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks is Jewish or that Jews are accusing Iran of perpetrating the attempt to cover up a Zionist plan. Another significant disinformation campaign has been identified, suggesting the attempt was staged. In response to the assassination attempt, there has been an increase in the amount of information that is anti-Semitic, according to Daniel Elia, who is the head of research at the cybersecurity business Brinker, who spoke with the Media Line. It was further said by him that prominent figures from extremist groups and alt-right personalities propagated these theories, suggesting the attack was orchestrated to remove Trump from his political position. His statement was that Platform X is the most prominent place where conspiracy theories of this kind are being disseminated. There is a linkage between the current surge in disinformation regarding the Trump assassination attempt and the war in Gaza, as conspiracy theories suggest that Trump is not beneficial to Zionist aspirations in that piece of land. For example, creating a reason for them to think that this is why Israel Zionists have perpetrated an assassination attempt, Elia said. Sivan Shalev, who is the director of emerging trends and disinformation at Active Fence, a firm that specializes in internet safety, said to the Media Line that her platform has seen a rise in the dissemination of conspiracy theories and misinformation in the wake of the attempted murder. She said, many of the narratives we have seen emerged on more fringe social media platforms such as Telegram, 4chan, Gab, Truth Social, and then spread toward more mainstream platforms, allowing the misinformation narratives to attract a much wider audience, with some narratives attracting more than 1 million impressions. She went on to say that some users of social media have made unsubstantiated assertions, such as that the gunman was Jewish or that he was a member of the extreme left or Antifa. Other users have said that the murder attempt was organized by the Biden administration or the deep state. According to Ashley Perry, an advisor to the Combat Anti-Semitism movement and a former consultant to the Israeli government, the high degree of finance and organization that anti-Israel organizations have access to is what differentiates anti-Israel fake news from other sorts of false news of the same nature. He said that those who are spreading anti-Semitic misinformation about the attempted assassination may be paid by private interests or may just subscribe to anti-Semitic anti-Semitic sentiments on a personal level. There are simply people out there who cannot imagine an event like this without the nefarious hand of Jews, and they can come from the fringes of the far right and far left, he said. The ancient saying that falsehood can go halfway around the globe while the truth is still putting on its shoes was used by Perry when he said that Israel is facing an uphill struggle in its fight against misinformation. According to what he claimed, Israel has to check every single detail or its credibility will be questioned, whereas its enemies can spread outright lies, be proven false, and still have their credibility largely unquestioned. Zvi Reich, a professor of communications at the Ben-Gurion University of the Negev, provided an explanation for the problem of anti-Semitic false news by pointing out that information of this kind is appealing to those who have deep-seated hate against Jews. People have an engine of suppressed emotions, and they are seeking confirmation for their bias. I think that the bursts of anti-Semitism are an outlet for these repressed emotions for many people, especially because nowadays it's less acceptable to express hateful, crude emotions, he told the Media Line. Now that we have determined that the gunman was not Jewish, let us examine the horrific specifics of his high school years and how he was bullied in order to determine the reason why he attempted to kill Donald Trump. Was the shooter bullied in high school? The individual who attempted to take the life of Donald Trump, Thomas Matthew Crooks, was described as a recluse who had a deep interest in history, according to former classmates. One of the former classmates reported that the would-be assassin, who was 20 years old at the time, would come to school dressed in a hunting outfit and camouflage gear and would sit in the cafeteria by himself before class. KDKA, a station in Pittsburgh that is owned and operated by CBS, conducted an interview with Jamison Myers, a member of the school's varsity rifle team. Myers said that Crooks had shown interest in joining the squad during his first year of high school, but he was not selected for the team. The statement made by Myers was that Crooks was a nice kid who never talked poorly of anyone. He added, "I'd never have thought him capable of anything I've seen him do in the last few days." Another student, Summer Barkley, said that Crooks did not have a large number of friends. According to her, she did not see anything that would lead her to suspect that he was capable of carrying out the incident. In a subsequent interview with the BBC, Barkley said that Crooks had a dedication to history. According to Mark Sigafus, who graduated with Crooks, he was definitely nerdy for sure, but he never gave off that he was creepy or like a school shooter. He added, "He seemed like he wouldn't hurt a fly." According to Jason Kohler, another former classmate of Crooks's, he was bullied because of his bookish look and because he often wore hunting or camouflage costumes to school. Moreover, he recalled that Crooks continued to wear a COVID mask far after it was no longer necessary to do so. According to the Community College of Allegheny County, Crooks received his degree in engineering science in May of 2024. Thus, his next job was as a dietary assistant at Bethel Park Skilled Nursing and Rehabilitation Center, where he remained for a while. Furthermore, the school district that Thomas Matthew Crooks attended has refuted a number of allegations that have been extensively disseminated on the school years of the 20-year-old shooter. In a statement that was published, the Bethel Park School District refuted the allegations that Crooks had been bullied, something that had been reported by his peers in the past. There is a painful misconception that Thomas Crooks was relentlessly bullied in school, which may have led to the assassination attempt on former President Trump, the school district said in its report. According to our records, Mr. Crooks excelled academically, regularly attended school, and had no disciplinary incidents, including those related to bullying or threats. The school administration also provided clarification about the allegations that Crooks was not accepted by the high school rifle team. According to classmates, Crooks shot terrible and was asked not to come back to tryouts because how bad of a shot he was. Thomas Crooks was never a member of the school's rifle team, and we have no record of him trying out. The school district noted in a letter published on its website, the coach does not recall meeting him. However, it is possible that Crooks informally attended a practice, took a shot, and never returned. We don't have any record of that happening. The district also disproved a story that Crooks had threatened to shoot up the school, which was published by the British tabloid The Daily Mail. Vincent Tormina, a fellow student, said that he made the threat in the year 2019. "We had like this anonymous place you could post things or tell on someone on our computers at school, and he posted something like, 'Don't come to school tomorrow,' and something else that made it sound like he'd put bombs in the cafeteria bathrooms," he said to reporters. Nevertheless, the district categorically rejected this assertion, stating that it was not true. In 2019, there was an unfortunate incident involving threats made by a different student against specific school administrators. According to the publication, that incident was thoroughly investigated and quickly addressed, and the student involved received appropriate discipline. It had no connection whatsoever to Thomas Crooks. As a student, Crooks was known to be a quiet, bright bright young man who generally got along with his teachers and classmates. Also, the school district said that it would be wildly irresponsible for it to comment on Crooks's mental health after he left school. Nevertheless, in spite of the assertions that Thomas was not bullied, a fresh video that was made public online revealed that the opposite was true. A video that has not been dated was first distributed by TMZ. In it, Thomas Crooks can be seen sitting at his desk as another student continually pulls on the leg of his pants. Crooks can be heard ordering the student to stop, simultaneously with laughs coming from the guy who is recording the footage. Crooks was often the target of condescension, according to classmates who have disclosed this information. It was reported by the Daily Mail that they made fun of him for his looks and his cleanliness, and they referred to him as a school shooter. According to Juliana Grooms, a former classmate of his, said in an interview with the New York Times, kids would always say, "Hey, look at the school shooter over there." They would tease him about his poor hygiene and his body odor. He was an easy target. Jim Knapp, who had previously served as Crooks's guidance counselor, characterized him as a loner who favored personal time alone. He just wanted to stay by himself, Knapp said. He was a very good student. Not once did he ever get in trouble. Upon his graduation, he was presented with a Star Award from the National Math and Science Initiative, which was worth $500. In the footage that was taken at the graduation ceremony, he can be seen walking across the stage to receive cheers and getting his diploma. According to the records of federal campaign financing, Crooks was a registered Republican who, on January 20th, 2021, contributed $15 to the Act Blue Political Action Group, which is a political action committee that supports liberal causes. Also, according to the records of the public courts in Pennsylvania, Crooks did not have any previous criminal history. In spite of the fact that it is evident that there are a great number of elements that are unknown, here is the intriguing aspect about what was on his phone search history prior to his shooting, what the shooter researched online prior to the incident. Now that detectives have finally been successful in breaking into his Samsung Android phone, details of his repulsive last internet behavior before the assault have been uncovered. It has been reported by the FBI that the individual who attempted to kill Donald Trump had researched Kate Middleton and stored photographs of her on his mobile device. Also, the FBI Director Christopher Wray and the United States Attorney General Merrick Garland were among the individuals that Crooks looked about on his various electronic devices, as reported by Mail Online. But that's not all. His parents had sent him text messages asking where he was after he failed to come home from the shooting range. The reason that Crooks was looking for the Princess of Wales online, who was the only person from a country other than the United States that he had looked up, is not yet known. For the purpose of a private briefing with MPs, detectives said that there is no evidence to imply that Crooks had any intention of traveling to the United Kingdom. When they checked 2 of his mobile phones and a laptop, the FBI discovered the searches for Kate, who has only made a few public appearances in recent times owing to her recovery from cancer. Also, there were several external hard drives that were discovered by the authorities in the house that he shared with his parents. In addition, detectives looked for information on the dates of Trump's rally in Butler, photographs of the previous president, photos of President Joe Biden, and dates of the Democratic National Convention. Even more bizarre is the fact that the phone that belonged to Thomas Matthew Crooks included a mugshot of a school shooter from Michigan, as well as other information pertaining to the assault that took place in 2021. As a result, CNN reported that in the days leading up to Crooks's attack on Trump, the 20-year-old gunman searched the internet for information about Ethan Crumbley, the student who was responsible for the shooting deaths of 4 classmates at Oxford High School on November 30th, 2021, as well as Crumbley's parents, who were found guilty of involuntary manslaughter earlier this year from the same incident. For those who are not aware of his case, after entering a guilty plea, Crumbley is presently going through the process of serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. His parents, James and Jennifer Crumbley, were found guilty in separate trials after prosecutors claimed they demonstrated gross negligence when they failed to take action as their son's mental health worsened and to properly secure the pistol Ethan used to carry out the shooting. In a meeting between the FBI, the United States Secret Service, and lawmakers, as well as from individuals who are aware of the current investigation, the most recent information on the investigation of Crooks was disclosed, as reported by CNN. Reportedly, officials also said that their investigation has so far shown that in the minutes leading up to the time that he squeezed the trigger on his AR-15, Thomas consulted websites that provided instructions on how to make bombs, and even took a snapshot of the broadcast of the Trump rally. During the meeting that took place on Wednesday, further information was disclosed, including the fact that Crooks' parents, Mary and Matthew Crooks, expressed their concern to law police over their son after he went missing only a few hours before to the shooting happening. Despite this, authorities have been unable to determine a plausible reason for Crooks' assault on Trump. This is due to the fact that Crooks has left behind very little evidence about his ideological or political leanings at the time of the shooting. On the other side, a U.S. official who was informed informed on the subject, told CNN that officials have believed that Crooks was planning to carry out a mass shooting and that Trump's campaign rally in Pennsylvania gave him a chance to carry out the attack in a location that was near to his house. In addition to this, the FBI discovered pornographic content on his phone. However, law enforcement officials were not taken aback by the findings of searches for pornographic material. In addition to the fact that multiple al-Qaeda suspects have been discovered to have looked for severe pornography in addition to tracks for Islamist purity, the source said that it's not unusual. This was in reference to the fact that Adam Lanza, the suspect in the horrific shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School, had photographs of child abuse on his phone. On the other hand, these phone details will contribute to the image that FBI profilers are constructing of Crooks, who resided with his parents 40 miles away from the location of the Trump event. As a consequence of these details, some specialists have endeavored to connect the dots that would show the reasons behind the shooter's motives, and here they are. The shooter's motive will shock you. An individual who specializes in criminal profiling said that the assassination attempt that Thomas Matthew Crooks made on former President Donald Trump in western Pennsylvania was most likely not motivated by politics and was not an act of random violence. Keith Howard, who is a criminal profiler and the head deputy of the Morgan County Sheriff's Office in Georgia, provided Fox News Digital with information on the behavioral science that was involved in the attempted murder. In his statement, Howard referred to the shooting of Trump as evidence of an organized thinker rather than a spontaneous act of violence. As much chaos as these events may bring to what we observed, they really are organized thinkers, he said to reporters. Think of it not as an impulsive act. They don't typically just wake up in the morning and go, there's going to be a presidential candidate in my county, in my district, so I'm just going to go over and try to kill him. Regardless of how, if you look at this type of individual and go, well, he may have been a loner or didn't have many friends or weren't close, it doesn't mean he can't think, he remarked to reporters. Howard said that the investigation being conducted by the FBI could uncover that this is a crime of opportunity. And if we do this behavioral analysis, if he's searching for something to be infamous, then when he's searching for the Trump rallies and the Democratic National Convention, and he sees that one is going to be in his backyard, now all his actions have come into place. I would imagine that some of these things are being assessed as the FBI gather this information. In addition, Howard said that it would not come as a surprise if the FBI subsequently disclosed that Crooks was not driven by political considerations. Let's look at what history has told us about the event we're looking at, and what does the research tell us about that? As Howard put it, according to Howard, there is no profile of an assassin or attempted assassin. He cited a research study that was conducted by the United States Secret Service in the 1980s. You can go from 16-year-old to 60 years old, he said, and there is rarely mental illness a part of that as well. Howard has said that it is very probable that the behavioral science section of the FBI would carry out an indirect personality evaluation. This assessment would include conducting interviews with as many individuals who knew Crooks as possible using a list of structured questions. The questions, the expert said, would be focused on Crooks' prior characteristics and traits before he acted out against Trump. The methodology there is that you want to make sure that you're asking the same question to the same people, so you're getting back the totality of the answers that come together, according to the researcher. They're going to also compare that to the crime scene information that they have and begin a behavioral construction. He added, they're going to start to piece together what they think behaviorally about the offender. Once they get what they believe is the most information they can get, then they start to move into the motivational typology of what they believe motivated this type of individual. Crooks' laptop and cell phone had been accessed by investigators, as stated by the FBI. According to Howard, having access to Crooks' phone and computer will be tremendous as the investigation progresses. The phone is a closer link to his mind, he said to reporters. If there are pictures, if there are plans, it will be tremendous when it comes to understanding offender behavior. There is also geofencing that they are able to track, he said. I know this is a top priority for the federal government. Here is yet another piece of information that may explain his shooting motivation. According to the FBI, he is thought to have flown a drone over the Pennsylvania rally location ahead of time in an apparent effort to check out the venue before the event. The drone has been retrieved by the FBI, which is in charge of the investigation into the shooting. Also, the fact that the drone had been used at some time before the shooting might be a contributing factor in explaining why Crooks knew to fire from the spot. Another specialist in extremism and terrorism said that the assassination attempt on former President Trump was most likely not motivated by political considerations. Instead, the 20-year-old was most likely acting out a fantasy and looking for a target who would bring him attention and fame. Jutta Clausen, a professor of political science at Brandeis University, has spent the last 20 years researching terrorist networks and violent extremism. During this time, she has developed a framework for forensic biographies of offenders and radicalization trajectories. Thus, this is what Jutta said. He wanted to become somebody. He wanted to make a mark. She added, he appears not to have been particularly politically motivated, I think. Based on what we know about his search history, there's no no sense he wanted to affect the election. He was basically looking for a target that would bring him attention and fame. That's why I say that he was acting out a fantasy of himself as being a big man, showing the world what he can do and getting attention, she proceeded to explain. According to Clausen, it seemed as if there were no organized elements to Crook's conduct since he did not leave a manifesto behind. This is a pattern that is more common among school shooters than it is among terrorists who are driven by political ideology. Furthermore, Clausen remarked that no one knew if Crooks thought he would survive after shooting the volley. One of the interesting things about these types of shooters is that they can be incredibly rational about planning out the scenario for how they're going to plan out the attack, but very irrational about the consequences, Clausen said to reporters. He may have thought that he could walk away and do something again. He might have had fantasies of people looking for him everywhere. She added, Crook's development of bombs is interesting because that's usually the weapon of choice for people who do not want to die and want to carry out another attack. She continued, Crooks could easily have become a mass killer. The Secret Service snipers prevented that. If you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to check our other similar and amazing videos on the screen. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.